The house doesn't need to cheat to win. It just needs you to believe you're about to. Every casino in the world runs on the same quiet illusion. You're in control. You're one spin away. You're the smart one who can beat the odds. But behind every flashing light, velvet curtain, and smiling dealer is a multi-billion-dollar industry designed to outthink, outwait, and outplay you. And here's the twist. It's not random. Casinos don't gamble. People do. And if you study the way gamblers think, you don't just unlock their psychology. You unlock the blueprint behind every system that manipulates desire for money, power, or loyalty. Let's rewind the tape, not to the poker table, but to childhood. A boy watches his father place reckless bets on football games. Sometimes he wins, and the living room explodes with laughter and beer. Other times, silence and slammed doors. The stakes aren't just money. They're mood, identity, approval. A girl grows up in chaos. Divorces, relocations, shifting rules. Uncertainty becomes normal. Risk becomes routine. So when a machine offers her a spin, a flash, a chance, it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels familiar. These stories aren't rare. They're pat, and they point to a truth no casino will ever advertise. Most gamblers are already halfway trained before they even play. Why? Because the gambling mindset doesn't begin at the blackjack table. It begins in the nervous system, in how we respond to reward, delay, loss, and control. Psychologists call it variable ratio reinforcement, a fancy term for unpredictable rewards. It's the strongest form of operant conditioning, and it's the same logic behind slot machines, lottery tickets, and Instagram likes. When a reward comes sometimes, but not every time, the brain becomes obsessed. This is how lab rats press livers until they collapse. It's also how humans learn to chase losses with more money, more emotion, and more delusion. But here's the twist. The very same psychology that turns people into compulsive gamblers is the exact psychology casino owners use to build their empires. So what if the difference between the gambler and the house isn't intelligence, but direction? Let's flip the lens. What if someone could harness the psychology of risk, not to play the game, but to run it, not to fall victim to the system, but to design it? This isn't theory. It's historical. In 1963, a mobster named Frank Lefty Rosenthal helped run 4 Las Vegas casinos from the shadows. He didn't have a degree in psychology, but he understood one principle intuitively. If you understand the mind of the gambler, you don't have to gamble. He rigged the environment, monitored behaviors, manipulated odds, and exploited emotional patterns. Not out of cruelty, but profit. He wasn't guessing. He was observing. That's what separates the addict from the architect. Gamblers act, the house watches. Now here's where it gets even darker. Some people blur the line. They're gamblers who learned the house's tricks and began using them, not just in casinos, but in business, relationships, even politics. Think of a CEO who sells dreams on the chance of success, no guarantee, or a cult leader who rewards obedience unpredictably, making followers desperate to please, or even a startup founder who knows that failure, framed correctly, fuels risk-taking behavior in investors. Sound familiar? It should, because the psychology of gambling is not just for the broke, the addicted, or the weak. It's the foundation of systems that govern billions of dollars, millions of people, and countless decisions. So what separates the one who loses everything from the one who runs the table? Mindset. The one who sees risk as chaos. Gambles, the one who sees risk as a lever, builds a casino. Before we go deeper, if this kind of story opens your mind or makes you see the world a little differently, go ahead and like or subscribe. It helps this channel keep peeling back the layers most people never think to question. Now, let's break open the gambler's first fatal error, believing they're winning while they're being played. The gambler doesn't lose because the odds are against them. They lose because they think the odds are with them. It's called the illusion of control, a psychological bias that convinces people they can influence outcomes that are, by design, random. And in the gambler's world, it's the deadliest drug of all. Imagine this: a man at the craps table kisses his dice 3 times, blows on them, taps the table, and then rolls. He believes, truly believes, this ritual increases his chances. It's harmless, even amusing, until you realize that this belief is what keeps him playing and playing and playing. Because when the mind convinces itself it has control, it will tolerate endless failure in pursuit of that one confirming win. This isn't just superstition, it's cognitive distortion, and casinos love it. Let's break it down. 1. Near miss effect. The slot machine shows 2 cherries, then stops just 1 symbol short of the jackpot. That's not bad luck, it's design. The brain interprets a near miss as almost winning, which paradoxically releases more dopamine than a total loss. You're being rewarded for almost succeeding. The gambler walks away thinking, I'm close. I just need one more try. The casino thinks, you'll be here all night. Hot hand fallacy. A few wins in a row, the gambler feels on fire. They start betting more, talking louder, drawing a crowd. They're not analyzing, they're ascending. But winning streaks in gambling are almost always statistical noise. No pattern, no plan, just randomness dressed as momentum. The illusion of control whispers, you've figured it out, but there's nothing to figure out. The game is built to fluctuate just enough to keep hope alive. 3. Personal luck bias. Gamblers often believe they are inherently luckier than others, or that the universe owes them a win. This belief protects ego and softens loss. But more importantly, it keeps the money flowing. They remember the time they turned $10 into $400. They forget the 50 times they lost $200 to do it. These psychological patterns aren't weaknesses, they're human. They show up not just in casinos, but in dating, investing, and even politics. Have you ever stayed in a toxic situation just because you'd already put in too much? That's called the sunk cost fallacy. Same logic, different table. Now ask yourself, if these fallacies are so predictable, so exploitable, what happens when someone builds a business model on them? You get a casino, and here's where it gets sharp. Casino designers study these behaviors. They test which type of near miss leads to longer play. They measure how music tempo affects risk tolerance. They calculate how many wins it takes to build false confidence. It's not a game, it's a laboratory. In fact, many casinos employ behavioral psychologists or game theorists to optimize floor layout, payout schedules, and even air quality to enhance decision fatigue. You thought you were just following your gut? They planned for that too. You're not playing the machine. The machine is playing you. And yet, there's something powerful buried in this dark mirror. If you can see these biases, label them, strip away the illusion, you don't have to fall for them. In fact, you can flip them because the illusion of control isn't just a trap, it's a tool. If you understand how people create false certainty, you can predict behavior in high-pressure environments. If you know how people chase near misses, you can design systems that keep them coming back, for better or worse. That's how the casino wins, not by cheating, but by giving you just enough control to trap yourself. Let's take it a level deeper. If the player is being manipulated, then who is doing the manipulating? What does the mind of a casino boss look like? How do they think? Not like gamblers, but like behavioral engineers. That's what we'll explore next. Because to run the house, you have to master what most players never even question. The environment is the real dealer. No clocks, no windows, music that speeds up when you win, chairs that cradle you just enough to forget how long you've sat. Welcome to the machine. This isn't entertainment. This is psychological warfare wrapped in velvet and neon. The casino isn't just a place. It's a system of control. Every inch of it is engineered to disarm logic, amplify impulse, and break your perception of time, risk, and reality. Let's be clear. The house doesn't win because the games are rigged. It wins because you're being slowly rewritten the moment you walk through the door. Spatial manipulation, the maze of desire. Ever wonder why it's hard to find the exit in a casino? That's not poor design, it's perfect design. Casinos are often structured like labyrinths. Corridors curve subtly. Sight lines are blocked. The most lucrative games are placed at the center. While food, restrooms, and exits are intentionally harder to access. This increases what's known in psychology as disorientation fatigue. The more confused you feel about space, the more you rely on habit. The more you rely on habit, the more likely you are to keep gambling, like a mouse in a maze. But you're paying to play too. Lighting, sound, and scent. The mood loop, bright saturated lighting around slot machines, creates a sense of excitement. Warm amber tones in lounge areas slow you down, calm your anxiety. Music is tailored to match player mood. Upbeat during wins, ambient during losses. Some casinos even pump custom scents into the air. Subtle combinations of citrus and vanilla to stimulate pleasure and create subconscious brand association. You think you're feeling lucky, you're actually being chemically nudged. The same logic powers fast food restaurants, retail chains, and high-end resorts. But in a casino, the stakes are emotional dependency. 3. Time distortion, when 3 hours feels like 20 minutes. Ever notice there are no clocks in a casino, no sunlight, no phone signal? This is deliberate temporal suppression. If you can't track time, you can't calculate how long you've been losing. And the longer you stay, the more disconnected you become from reality. Easier to manipulate, easier to convince, easier to drain. It's not just about forgetting time. It's about surrendering to the moment. 4. Reward structures. Dopamine on demand. The payout systems in slot machines are structured to reinforce addiction. Randomized rewards, bright visuals, cascading lights, sensory overload, all designed to spike dopamine, the brain's pleasure chemical. But it's not the win that addicts the player. It's the anticipation, the moment before the result, when hope is high and anything feels possible. That moment is engineered to be more powerful than the outcome itself. And it's what keeps the gambler chasing a dream that statistically doesn't exist. Favored social engineering. Eyes, cheers, and mirrors. Strategic mirrors reflect others winning. Actors, yes, actual paid players, sometimes sit at busy tables to make the atmosphere feel charged. Payouts are celebrated loudly, even if they're tiny. Why? Because humans are mimetic creatures. We copy behavior. If others look happy playing, we want to play. If someone wins, we feel like we're next. If the room is buzzing, we assume it must be for a reason. In reality, it's manufactured energy, noise designed to make your fear of missing out louder than your logic. And here's where it all comes together. The casino doesn't force you to lose. It just creates an environment where not losing feels unnatural. That's the real genius. Control the space, and you control the behavior. Control the behavior, and you control the outcome without ever touching the odds. Now imagine this psychological engine applied beyond casinos to workplaces designed to keep you hustling without rest, to apps that make you scroll endlessly, to political campaigns that flood your senses with urgency and fear. Because what the casino has mastered is environmental persuasion. And once you understand it, you can use it too. Not to exploit others, but to spot the systems manipulating you. And if you're bold enough to build systems that empower rather than ensnare. But before that, we need to change seats. Because up until now, we've been walking the floor like players. Next, we step into the control room. Let's think like the house. The gambler plays to win. The house plays so you keep playing. And that difference, subtle as it may sound, is everything. Because while the gambler fixates on a payout, the house fixates on behavior. Not outcomes, not luck, not even money. Just behavior. Measurable, repeatable, programmable behavior. Welcome to the other side of the table. To think like a gambler is to chase the short term, adrenaline, hope, recovery. To think like a casino is to build long-term certainty by exploiting short-term chaos. Let's take apart this mindset brick by brick. That's so systems over emotion. Gamblers feel, the house calculates. A player wins and feels invincible. The house shrugs. It already accounted for that win in its margin. The house never panics, never celebrates, never goes all in. Because the house doesn't rely on emotion. It relies on statistical inevitability. And imagine this. A casino knows that over 1,000 blackjack hands, it will profit 51.5% of the time. That's a razor-thin edge, but it's enough. Over time, that edge becomes a fortune. That's the lesson. You don't need to win every time. You just need to win predictably over time. This is the psychology of power, not chasing spikes, but engineering steady flow. It's the difference between gambling and operating a system of gambling. Control the frame, not the player. The gambler walks into the casino already thinking about the game. The house, it controls the frame around that game. Who decides the rules? The payout rates, the layout, the time limits, the reward thresholds, not the play. This is frame dominance, a psychological strategy where the person who defines the context holds the power, regardless of the details within it. Want a real-world example? A startup founder offers equity instead of salary. They reframe lack of money as a high-risk opportunity. A social media platform gives you likes but no money, yet you keep posting. The reward system was never yours to define. Casinos don't win because they're lucky. They win because they wrote the rules. 30. Predict human weakness, then price it. A good gambler studies a great casino studies flaws. How long will a person play before they quit? How much does alcohol increase their spending? What losses make them bet more instead of less? Casinos have psychographic profiles for different types of players. The hopeful rookie, the angry loser, the high-stakes narcissist. Each one is nudged, prompted, and catered to with calculated precision. VIP cards, free drinks, hotel upgrades. These aren't gifts, they're triggers. Triggers that re-engage the part of your brain that craves validation or redemption. And once that part is activated, the money follows. This is the mindset of the house. Don't wait for the player to act. Engineer the conditions so they act the way you want. Build ecosystems, not games. A gambler thinks in rounds. Spin, roll, bet. The house thinks in ecosystems. The games are just one part. There's food, there's music, there's customer service. There are points, tiers, loyalty programs, birthday bonuses. Every piece is designed to make one message clear. This is your second home. And the more someone feels like they belong, the harder it becomes to leave, even when they're losing. Now pause. Ask yourself, how many modern businesses operate like this, where the product is almost secondary to the environment? Gyms that sell lifestyle over fitness, apps that sell identity over function, relationships that sell comfort over truth. All of it, house logic. Tive, turn the loser into a believer. Here's the darkest truth. The house doesn't just accept that players will lose. It depends on it. But it also knows this. A losing player is most vulnerable right after the loss. And that's when the house is most generous. Free drink, free meal, a friendly word from the dealer. Because if you feel taken care of, you're more likely to come back. This is soft capture, a psychological move where failure is wrapped in comfort to avoid rebellion. Casinos learned it first. Now brands, governments, and influencers use it too. And here's the final shift. The mindset of the house is not just about power over others. It's about immunity from the very games that consume everyone else. The house doesn't chase, it designs. The house doesn't gamble. It watches others do it on its terms. So ask yourself, in your life, are you acting like the gambler or are you designing the room? In the next section, we'll step even further away from the felt. Because what if you could use this mindset, not to exploit, but to lead? What if the tricks of the house could be repurposed to win in business, negotiation, and influence? Let's find out. The most dangerous person in a casino isn't the high roller. It's the gambler who stops playing and starts observing. Because once you understand the patterns, once you see how the house shapes perception, steers behavior, rewards loyalty, and turns losses into fuel, you can reverse engineer the entire machine. And then you can build one of your own. Not a literal casino, something more subtle, more profitable, more scalable, a business, a movement, a system. The house isn't just a place, it's a mindset, and it's portable. Let's look at how people flip the script and become psychological operators. Individuals who turn the tools of the house into personal power. 1. Framing reality in your favor. Every casino game is built on a rigged but consensual frame. The player agrees to odds they don't fully understand because they trust the environment. Smart marketers do the same. Apple reframes expensive as premium. Luxury brands reframe exclusivity as desirability. Even job listings reframe unpaid internship as once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The key? Control the frame before you offer the game. Psychological operators use this principle in business, social influence, and negotiation. They don't just pitch value, they define the value system. Think like the house. Before offering the reward, write the rules. 2. Using delay and uncertainty as hooks. Remember the power of variable ratio reinforcement. The slot machine doesn't pay out every time, but when it does, the unpredictability hooks the player. Now apply that to human attention. Creators use it when they build content with surprise endings. Apps use it when they serve unpredictable notifications to keep users checking in. Sales funnels use it when they withhold full offers until the end of a free training. It's the casino model without the chips. Used ethically, this can drive engagement. Used manipulatively, it builds addiction. Either way, the pattern is clear. Uncertainty isn't a flaw, it's a feature. And those who understand it can engineer irresistible experiences. Insight 3. Anticipating emotion, then guiding it. The house never reacts emotionally. It anticipates emotion and provides the perfect outlet. After a big loss, offer a free buffet. After a big win, offer a loyalty upgrade. Why? Because every emotional high or low is an opportunity for redirection. This applies far beyond casinos. Leaders use it to boost morale after failure. Smart brands use it to comfort upset customers before they complain. Negotiators use it to reframe setbacks as stepping stones. This is emotional aikido, redirecting momentum instead of resisting it. And it works because people are more likely to comply when they feel understood. Just like in a casino, for creating environments that speak louder than words. The casino's genius isn't in its games. It's in the space it creates. That space tells a story. You belong here. You're close to winning. You're being rewarded. No one needs to say it. The lighting, music, layout, and pacing whisper it on repeat. Savvy operators build similar environments. A boutique makes you feel luxurious before you even try on clothes. A coaching program builds community and hierarchy before teaching a single concept. An online brand uses mood boards, colors, and sounds to trigger tribal belonging. You're not just selling something, you're selling a space to feel something. And in that space, people spend more, trust faster, and stay longer. 5. Rewarding predictably, withholding strategically. The house gives just enough wins to keep you going, but it withholds just enough to keep you chasing. This isn't cruelty, it's optimization. And it's used in everything from game design to dating apps to education platforms. A clever entrepreneur might release content in tears. A coach might offer breakthroughs after just enough effort. An influencer might drop exclusive content only after the algorithm senses decline. Why? Because reward only works when people are conditioned to expect it sporadically. It's the push-pull dynamic that makes people return. It's psychological gravity. And if you understand it, you stop chasing validation and start engineering engagement. So where does this lead? If you're starting to see patterns everywhere now, good. Because once you learn the mechanics of behavior, you're no longer a spectator in your own life. You're an architect, a puppeteer, if you're bold enough. You can design systems that mirror the logic of the house, not to exploit others, but to build loyalty, focus, and influence in ways most people miss entirely. But here's the twist. What happens when everyone starts thinking like the house? What happens when these systems of influence escape the casino and enter your phone, your feed, your workplace? In the next section, we'll pull the curtain back on the world beyond Vegas. Because you may have left the casino, but the casino hasn't left you. You don't need flashing lights, poker chips, or roulette wheels to run a casino. All you need is attention, uncertainty, and desire. The modern casino isn't just a building in Vegas. It's everywhere. In your phone, in your feed, in your daily choices. Because once the psychology of gambling was proven to work on brains, behavior, and money, it didn't stay in the casino. It spread like wildfire through the digital world, political systems, and even personal relationships. Let's look at where the house logic now lives and how it's shaping society in ways few people realize. 1. Social media, the slot machine in your pocket. Pull to refresh, wait for likes, scroll for something better, scroll again. Social media platforms are engineered using the same psychological principles as slot machines. Variable rewards, check. Dopamine bursts, check. Bright colors and noises to simulate excitement, check. You aren't browsing, you're playing. And every like, comment, or share is a tiny payout. The platform is the house. Your attention is the currency. And guess what? The house always wins. Even when you think you're in control, especially when you think you're in control, especially when you think you're in control. The news cycle. Fear is the ultimate hook. Casinos thrive on emotional triggers. So do media companies. Fear, outrage, urgency, they activate our survival mechanisms. And when you're emotionally charged, you're easier to guide, easier to sell to, easier to control. Notice how headlines are framed. Could this be the end? What they're not telling you. The shocking new threat, it's not about truth. It's about emotional gambling. Click, react, repeat. You're not consuming information. You're betting your attention on emotional volatility. And the algorithm tracks every move, just like a casino tracks its players. 3. Political messaging. Casinos of belief. Think politics is about policies. It's mostly about psychology. A candidate doesn't need to be honest. They need to feel predictably rewarding. They trigger hope in supporters, fear in opponents, and urgency in everyone. And just like a casino, they offer small wins, a tax cut here, a headline victory there, while keeping you emotionally invested in the long game. The rally, the chants, the colors and slogans, it's not just politics, it's environmental control. It's a belief casino. People bet loyalty, and in return, they get belonging. They stay not because of reason, but because of ritual. For dating apps, love on a variable schedule. Swipe right, no match. Swipe again. Ding, a match appears. Maybe a message. Maybe not. Dating apps are psychological roller coasters designed on the same reinforcement schedules as gambling machines. They offer just enough connection to keep you chasing, just enough rejection to keep you humble, and just enough curiosity to never quit. You're not finding love, you're betting on it. And the house, the app, profits from the search, not the solution. 5. Productivity apps. Turning goals into games. Even your to-do list is gamified now. Points for tasks, streaks for habits, fireworks when you hit a milestone. Is this bad? Not always. But understand this. You're being trained to respond to digital reinforcement, not inner discipline. When the app becomes the motivator, the system becomes the boss. And whoever controls the system runs the game. That's casino logic wrapped in wellness. Consumerism, the sale that's almost gone. Only 3 left. 24 hours until this deal disappears. People are buying this right now. Sound familiar? Scarcity, urgency, emotional FOMO. These are the payout levers of modern commerce. It's not about what you need. It's about what you might miss. And so you click and spend and justify it with the same logic gamblers use. It's a good deal. I'd be stupid not to. And just like that, the house collects. So, what now? You've seen the casino. You've studied the system. You've watched its logic infect nearly every corner of modern life. Now the real question is, do you want to be a player in these games or an architect of your own? Because every time you pick up your phone, turn on a screen, or chase a reward, you're being gamed. But the people who build these systems, they think like the house. They engineer your instincts. They play you. In our final section, we'll explore the final paradox. What happens when you master this mindset? What happens when you become the house? And what's the cost? So you've studied the gambler, you've learned the systems of the house. You've seen how psychological manipulation lives in casinos, in apps, in politics, in everyday life. Now here's the final question. What happens when you become the house? At first, it sounds like freedom. You stop chasing, you start predicting. You're not the lab rat anymore. You're running the experiment. But there's a deeper layer beneath the control, and it's darker than most people expect. Because once you master the house's tools, you risk becoming addicted to control itself. Let's go deeper. When mastery becomes obsession, a gambler chases the jackpot. A house operator chases certainty. They want to control outcomes, control people, control perception. And when that control starts working, when customers bite, followers grow, profits rise, it feels like power. But slowly, they stop trusting anything they didn't design. Spontaneity becomes risk. Emotion becomes weakness. People become variables in a behavioral equation. This is where mastery becomes pathology. You're not playing a game anymore. You're micromanaging the world, and that's its own kind of prison. Emotional distance, the cost of the control room. Think about a casino boss watching players lose their life savings. Does he stop the game, feel guilt, intervene? Probably not, because the logic says they chose to play. The data says this is how it works. That cold detachment, It's a psychological shield. And anyone who begins to manipulate systems for gain, marketers, politicians, even teachers, risks building that same wall. The more you see people as behavior patterns, the harder it is to see them as people. This is the paradox of the puppeteer. The more you pull the strings, the less you feel the show. The string, rigging the game, leaves no one to challenge you. Gamblers lose, and then they try again. They believe in luck. They believe in miracles. But the house, it never plays. It never risks. It just waits. And that waiting can turn into isolation. There's no thrill when you've already calculated the outcome. No surprise when you wrote the script. No tension when you know the system bends in your favor. It's the emotional flatline of certainty. And that might be the most dangerous addiction of all. Not to risk, but to predictability. 4. You become what you designed. Ever wonder why casino bosses rarely gamble? Because they've seen what the machine does to people. They've seen lives spiral, hope evaporate, delusions grow. They know the dream is a lie. They built it, so they stay behind the curtain, watching. But here's the catch. Even the house is a character in its own system. If you spend years manipulating perception, you start believing your own illusions. You start rigging your relationships, conversations, even your identity. And one day, you wake up wondering, if I've always controlled the game, who have I actually been playing with? The final illusion, thinking you're safe. This is the last and cruelest twist of house logic. Believing that control makes you invincible. That because you see the patterns, you can't be played. That because you understand psychology, you can't be manipulated. That because you built the machine, it won't turn on you. But here's the truth. No one is immune. Not the gambler, not the dealer, not the architect, because the mind you use to control others is still vulnerable to itself. Cognitive bias, ego, overconfidence, blind spot. They don't disappear with knowledge. Sometimes they grow. Even casinos lose. Even masterminds make emotional bets. Even the puppeteer gets tangled in his own strings. So what does it mean to truly master the psychology of gambling? It means seeing the machine and the mirror. It means knowing how systems manipulate people and how power manipulates the self. It means walking the edge of influence without falling into obsession. And most importantly, it means knowing when to step away from the table. Because if you're always trying to be the house, you might forget how to be human. At some point, we all gamble with time, love, money, ambition. Some chase the win. Some build the system. Most never ask who designed the game in the first place, but you did. And now you know the mechanics, the frameworks, the illusions. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? Will you use it to manipulate, to protect, to build? Because once you understand how the house works, you don't have to play by its rules anymore. You can write your own. Thanks for thinking this through with me. See you in the next story.